This video covers the life course approach, and please excuse my spelling, there are actually two P's in approach. Before we get into its importance and how it applies to our course, it's important to go over what the life course approach is. And what it is an individual's or cohort, meaning a group of people's, life experiences over the course of several generations. So that would include perhaps yourself, your parents, and your grandparents, and how those life experiences then result in patterns of health and disease. So taken together, we're looking at how all of these life experiences across generations affect the patterns of health and disease while recognizing the past and present patterns of health. All of these things together are then shaped by the social, economic, and cultural context in which we understand health and disease. If this is sounding somewhat familiar, that's good, because last week we covered the ecological model. And the ecological model put a lot of emphasis on social and economic cultural context, whereas this life course approach highlights the impact and importance of life experiences across generations. So the next part is to consider the ways that we use the life course approach, or how we're going to apply it to a class and think about it. So intuitively, the life course approach follows the course of life. But rather than starting at the moment that an individual is born, it starts at the moment of conception. So the moment that the baby is put in the uterus. And then it follows all the way until death. And rather than draw a really sad picture, we have an old papa. So the life course is taking into account all of the experiences of life, just through these phases. And it's helpful to think of this as influences on the individual. So there's three waves we're going to discuss. The first is the developmental wave, and this happens mainly in infancy and childhood. So this is where you're just developing basic skills or language, etc. The second wave, which is of less influence, is the skills and knowledge developed over the course of more childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. Finally, the third wave is work expertise, all of this which influences the life course. And just to be clear, it's really helpful to see how each three of these waves apply by looking at the exact groups in which they fall under, or how the waves impact each phase of life. So we have prenatal and infancy, which fall under developmental, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and old age, which fall under the second and third waves. The final piece I want to add here is about the interventions we can provide when we consider the life course. And the first intervention that we can provide is around prenatal support and early childhood education. And that falls during the prenatal and infancy stage of life. This is a really critical time in which interventions can have a substantially large impact. The second intervention or phase that we can engage with the life course is through education, employment, and professional development. And this happens all the way through childhood to adulthood. There are some interventions that are good through the entire course of life, which include services for well-being, health, prevention, and care. And so at any point in the life course, these interventions are helpful. Another intervention that we can consider through the life course is making sure that we are operating and living in secure, safe, and supportive environments. So all of these four things, taken together, are a great way to think of areas of intervention or areas of action. So really quickly, I want to talk about what some of the advantages are to the life course approach. So we can think about the advantages being that we can implement interventions through a variety of settings and through the course of a person's lifetime. And it emphasizes system transformation, meaning that we have to address the systematic issues through the life course to address some of these health and disease problems. So the systems approach to prevention emphasizes, similar to the ecological model, how we're thinking about all of these different programs and institutions impacting us through either the individual, the family, the school, and the community, all of which have an impact throughout the life course. So I think it's really important that we take a moment to see how the life course approach is being applied right now in medicine and in healthcare settings. So Dr. Burke Harris has a great TED Talk, which is the next step for you after you finish this video. But what she does very well is discuss how adverse childhood events, ACEs, ACES, impact health across a lifetime. And so taking this life course approach is really helpful when we take all of the life experiences of yourself and of previous generations into account and how they result and impact health and disease patterns. And finally, we are going to do, similar to what we did in lecture earlier this week, a life course assignment. So what I want you to do is to draw, write, paint, sing, whatever you want to do, but be creative in demonstrating the life course. And so you can do this either for yourself, a family member, or your favorite character like Harry Potter or, I don't know, The Last Avatar, anything you want to do. But you have to demonstrate this. So for example, I've provided an example of my life course so far. And then after that, you're going to write about where do you think risk-reducing interventions could be made and what would they look like. And so if we're using my life course as an example, we would maybe say that we could reduce or think of risk-reducing interventions around high school to maybe provide better mental health resources for bullying and etc. And what would that look like? That is all up to you. So this is actually going to be due Sunday by midnight. And if you have any questions, please contact me.